Gotta review this fucker now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yeah, day 5 is here in the 31 Days of Horror Dukes. And yes, I'm going to take it all the way back to 1984 with a film directed by my favorite director of all time, which is Lucio Fulci, and it is called Murder Rock. Yes, Murder Rock. So yeah, getting right into the synopsis of this film. Basically, this one is about a group of kind of upscale New York ballet / dancers who are preparing themselves to maybe, finally get picked to go into some certain, competitions and productions and things like that. Anyways, a couple bigwigs happen to show up, and they're looking for some people to actually star in their new production. And shortly after that, these individuals start getting picked off one by one by this mysterious killer. And now they got to figure out who's doing the killing before everybody gets killed. Yes, and that is the synopsis of the film. Now, my thoughts on this one. Now, Murder Rock, aka Dancing Death, also known as Slashdance, which came out in 1984. This movie right here was basically Lucio Fulci capitalizing on the great success of Flashdance, and among other films in the early 80s having to do dealing with dancing and aerobics and choreographed films and things like that. In fact, this movie actually came out almost a year after, almost to the day of Flashdance, which I found was very, very intriguing in itself. This movie is, definitely not a blatant ripoff of Flashdance, which, like I said, I'm glad they didn't use the name Slashdance, because it would have just screamed, blatant ripoff and things like that. But yeah, it just kind of takes elements of the popularity in North America of dancing and aerobic films. So, I praise Fulci for trying something completely different, because let's look at the facts here. This film came out in 1984. He had a string of really amazing films, probably coming off like the golden age of Fulci, with Zombie and the Gates of Hell trilogy. Contraband was in there. We got the New York Ripper, and even in the same year he did New Gladiators too. So Fulci was doing some crazy, crazy films and really, really gory films. Now, getting to my thoughts on this one. This is a very interesting film for Fulci, like I said, because, his previous works were super gory. Even some of his giallos, had blood and gore and things like that. Now, this one right here relies completely the polar opposite of gore. There's really no blood in this film whatsoever. The killer kills with like a hairpin. It's about 6 to 8 inches long, and what the killer does, it kind of chloroforms these women, and when they fall on the ground, exposes their breasts and punctures their heart with this hairpin. It's kind of a unique way of killing people, but in the product in the end is not a lot of blood and gore. So Fulci fans that are looking for a really bloody and gory film, you're probably not going to find it here. Like, this one really does rely mostly on the cinematography and the story. The story is actually quite compelling in this. Maybe almost a little bit too much story for its own good. There's a lot of characters in this film, and I think that's actually one of the downfalls to the film, is that there is so many characters and potential victims in this film, and there's really only about a handful of kills. And so that's kind of depressing a little bit. I don't really care about the blood and gore and stuff. I just wish there was a little bit more action on the fronts of people getting killed and things like that. They spent a lot of time with certain characters, and there's a lot of investigation going on in this one. And the film starts out really strong. I think in the middle it does drag a little bit, but it does pick up quite drastically towards the end of the film, which is really cool. Another driving force for this film is the soundtrack. Very, very catchy music in this film, along with a lot of really kind of snazzy choreographed dance sequences in the beginning of the film, which is really cool. And the score itself is awesome. Like, the music's fantastic. It's perfectly placed in the film. and things like that. But, you know, like I said, hardcore fans of Fulci are probably going to find this one a little tame, maybe a little boring, because, like I said, the middle does drag. I think this one could have been maybe a tad bit shorter. There is a couple odd, like very odd and awkward scenes in the middle of this film that I don't really know why are even there. There's this one hilarious scene where this girl tries to kill this other one, and then she's like, well, I totally could have got away with it because they never would have suspected me, because she's going to do it the same way. It's just like a really, really random scene. If you're a fan of Fulci and Italian films, you'll know that there's a lot of scenes in films sometimes that just kind of show up for no apparent reason. And that one kind of made me laugh a little bit. But yeah, I'm a really big fan of this film, I have to say. I mean, I don't think it's Fulci's best film. It's definitely by far not his worst film either. I think the story's compelling enough to keep me interested in stuff. I really do want to see who the killer is. I think it's that intriguing. So, but I like the aspect they took in this one, having to do with dreams and things like that. I think most people that watch a lot of giallos will probably figure out who the killer is in this film. But it is what it is. It's still a pretty fun watch and stuff. So, you know, if I had to rate this film, I'm going to give it about a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's fun. And yeah, once again, I'm just very glad they didn't name this one Slashdance, because as funny as that name is, I think that's just too much of a blatant ripoff, so that's kind of ridiculous. But Murder Rock in itself is kind of misleading a little bit, because it kind of portrays like it's like a rock musical, but in a sense it's just, you know, 80s, you know, contemporary dance music or whatever you want to call it and stuff, but which is really cool. Keith Emerson does the original soundtrack for this, and I think it's great, man. It's really fantastic stuff. So yeah, man, like I said, if you're a really big Fulci fan, probably not for everybody, but I think it's a pretty cool hybrid giallo, kind of dance giallo film. It's really interesting in itself. And yeah, you know, it's sleazy at moments, you know, like I said, with the killer pulling down the boob and, you know, having to kill that way. I think it's pretty interesting. So there is that sleaze factor, and a lot of beautiful women in this film too. That's another driving force in this one. So yeah, cool stuff. Of course, starring Ray Lovelock and Claudio Castanelli's in this one too, and lots and lots of familiar faces that always appear in Italian films, like the red-haired girl from House by the Cemeteries in this. She's been in lots of like Fulci and other type of films too. So, but yeah, 6.5 out of 10, guys. Check out Murder Rock if you've never checked it out. I think that Code Red is putting this out. Someone's putting this out on Blu-ray. I can't remember who it is, but yeah, it is what it is. So, Murder Rock, give it a shot, guys. And that is going to do it for day 5 here on the 31 Days of Horror. I am still sick. I cannot seem to crush this cold, so I still kind of sound like a little bit like a bag of beaten assholes. But, again, it is what it is. And as usual, guys, peace!